How's it going, everyone? It is I, Anime Outlet, and this is part 2 of What If Deku Had a Half Air, Half Water Quirk. And now, let's begin. Isuku would fall down to his knees, staring on towards his mother's dead body. No, this can't be right. Why? He would stare up towards the cloud, slamming two fists into the ground. Toya! Damn it! You'll pay for this. You'll pay. You'll say, stuttering in his voice, as tears would slowly start streaming out of his eyes, as thunder would crackle over his head. He would still sit there as droplets of water would start pounding onto Izuku's head, just cooling the embers of the fire that was still growing. Izuku would lie there before falling back onto his back, as his left eye would end up going completely black before the white part of his eye would go completely blue, signifying water, and right in the middle of it, where his just colored part of his eye should be, would turn completely white, giving Izuku kind of a just alien-like look, not looking human. One of his eyes was normal, while the other was basically completely blue with a little bit of white in the center. With that, Izuku would stare upwards towards the clouds before getting up, really just kind of confused. However, with smoke rising through the air and it now being visible because of it being daytime, a fire truck would end up rushing to the scene along with an ambulance, where they would end up finding Izuku sitting there, staring on towards his mother's corpse. They would quickly put his mother's corpse into a body bag, putting Izuku into the ambulance, checking him for any injuries, where the ambulance would then drop him off at the police station, where he would be questioned just a lot, basically just trying to find out what happened. Izuku would say his brother Toya Todoroki had killed his father, Enji Todoroki, and had taken his little brother Oto Todoroki as well. They would kind of stare confused. This didn't make any sense. The number 2 hero had been killed by some no-name villain that happened to be a part of the family too. It all just kind of seemed like some story of make-believe, but it was adding up as the house was completely just gone to ruins. So with that, we now end up seeing Izuku being dropped off at an orphanage. The police officers there would regretfully put him into there, saying that they really could do nothing else. All of his family members were dead, and he had basically nowhere else to go. And so with that, Izuku would be dropped off into the orphanage and would be placed into the system, where he would end up just going on for a search, trying to find a family. At the orphanage, Izuku would be just the oldest one there, as really everyone after the age of 5 would end up getting just selected and adopted within a couple of months. So with no one really his age, Izuku would start to grow very bored, along with no one being there to train with Izuku. Izuku would regress in some of his abilities, which Izuku also wouldn't like when he just saw how weak his Quirk was becoming. So fatefully one morning, Izuku would end up being woken up by someone standing over him. It was just someone standing in a suit. "Come on, Izuku, please follow me," and I'm saying as Izuku would stand up before walking with the person that was all just dressed up like some sort of butler. Once there, you would find another person and person, one being male and the other female, both wearing elegant suits and a dress. So with this, Izuku would see a signing happen before the two would look towards him. Alright, Izuku, consider yourself a Yaoyorozu now. You can of course keep the Todoroki name, just if you want to, you can add the Yaoyorozu name. However, we're not sure if you'd like to do that yet, you know? They would say, kind of with a hint of some emotion in their voice, like they planned to do something with Izuku later on. They just weren't sure what was going to happen. So with that, Izuku would end up being driven in a nice, fancy car down towards the Yaoyorozu mansion, where from there Izuku would be sat onto an elegant couch with Yaoyorozu's parents sitting across from him. Izuku, we've adopted you after hearing a just sad passing of your family. And we also have heard the stories that our young daughter Momo has told us of you, how you protected her from a schoolyard bully. And so, we would like to have you be a security guard for our daughter Momo, if you can do that. What? What do you mean? I'm still so young. Why would I be a security guard at such a young age? That doesn't matter right now. All we know is that you're strong and of Todoroki blood, meaning that you should, of course, be stronger than the average person. So, will you do it? Izuku would sigh, sitting back into his seat. I guess I have to. You already did adopt me. So, I'll consider this just a thank you for adopting me, I guess, Izuku would say as they would smile. Great. So, we have a room all set up for you upstairs. The gym is also happens to be next to your room. It's a private one, so basically only you and people you allow get to go in it. So, yeah, we've already set up all this stuff for you, so we want you to have the best life possible. So, you can protect Momo with the most care, and just being able to protect her just as best to your abilities. Alright, Izuku would say, walking up to his room, where he end up looking through his drawers, finding tons of clothes already. He was just shocked and baffled. Yes, his family was rich, as his father was the number 2 hero after all. However, they weren't this rich. This is just insane, Izuku would think to himself. We cut forward years more, as we now end up seeing Izuku sitting right beside Momo Yaoyorozu in their private middle school. As Izuku is sitting there, he would end up just staring upwards. This is interesting, huh? Last day of middle school, Izuku would say to himself, as Momo would laugh. Yeah, it's quite cool, though. We're about to go to high school, of course. Yeah, I guess so, Izuku would say, as the bell would ring, signifying the day was over, as they would walk out of the middle school. As they would be walking home, Izuku would end up staring upwards, as something small would drip onto his nose. It looked and smelt like ooze. As we cut backwards just around 5 minutes, we see Izuku and Momo sitting to the front of UA, or not UA, just the front of their middle school, waiting to be picked up by a car. A car would zoom up, where they would end up looking in to see their butler standing there, or sitting there in the car. Momo would say, we don't need you, I want to go shopping real quick. I should be back within an hour or two. Are you sure, Miss Momo? Would say, which she would nod her head. The butler would look towards Izuku, who would just slowly nod his head, signifying this was alright, as we now see them just walking off. We cut back to Izuku wiping the sludge off his finger, where he would end up staring on it. Izuku would look upwards before seeing two eyes roll to stare down at him. As both their gazes would meet, Izuku would jump forward, tackling Momo down to the ground. As she would end up falling on her wrist, just bruising it severely, it would pull her backwards as a sludge villain would stand looking on towards both of them. Ah, what do we have here? Two little rich children. Oh, if I were to take one of your bodies over, I could have a life just full of desire. I could do whatever I wanted. Sludge would be saying as Izuku, seeing this, would manipulate the air around him to create a spear out of air, which Izuku would throw, piercing one of the eyes of the sludge villain. As the sludge villain would end up screaming out in pain, Izuku would jump forward, grabbing one of the eyes, yanking it out before crushing it in his fist. As the sludge would dissipate, Izuku would look towards Momo, who was still on the ground holding her wrist, as a small tear would go out of her eye. "Are you alright, Momo?" Izuku would ask. She would quickly nod her head before thanking Izuku. "It's no problem," he would say, offering a hand, as he would pull her up. They would walk to the hospital, where she would end up being treated, where they would just put some bandages around it and said to just keep it as still as possible for around a couple of days or so, and it should be back to normal. So we now see Izuku walking back to her house, where they would be told in just 10 months they are going to be participating in the UA entrance exams, and the recommendation exams at that, because of their name. Where Izuku would end up looking at them, where they would then look back at him. "Look, daughter Momo here, she said she wanted to become a hero. We're not so sure we like that decision, but it's her choice. So please, train her as much as you possibly can." Izuku would nod his head, as he had been just given some of the top people that had trained him for around 4 years by the Yaoyorozus. They had hired many people to train Izuku to become the strongest and most capable he could be, so it was only fair he just trained Momo in gratification for it. So we now cut forward 10 months as we see Izuku and Momo walking in to the UA campus, where it would both take the UA just written exam for the entrance exam, where both of them would pass with flying colors. Both of them, of course, having some of the richest and smartest tutors out there to make sure they pass all their classes with flying colors. After that, both of them would be split up. And basically just taken to other cities for the hero exam, as both of them were written down as Yaoyorozus, so they were taken in different areas just in case they might have a competitive advantage being able to work together. So with that, Izuku would be placed in another city. However, while he was walking there, he would look down towards his card, where it would say Izuku Todoroki / Yaoyorozu. Izuku would think that didn't really make much sense, but he would shrug his shoulders. As he would be staring off at his card, he would bump into a blue-haired girl. As the girl would fall down to the ground, she would end up getting up quickly before staring towards him. "Oh, I'm sorry about that," Izuku would say, putting his hand down towards her. "Oh, you're alright," the blue-haired girl would say as Izuku would bring her upwards. As Izuku ended up looking towards her, he would say, "I'm Izuku. Once again, I'm sorry for that," he would say, putting out his hand. "Oh, I'm Nejire," she would say, as both of them would shake each other's hands. As both of them would then walk off with Izuku going towards the city he was stationed in. Meanwhile, Nejire would think to herself, was that one of the new first years? Wait, no, they're taking the exams right now. I wonder if he'll make it. I'll see you later, I guess, she would say to herself as we end up seeing Suku standing right in the middle of a city as the hero exams had begun. With him standing there, all of a sudden, the Zero Pointer would look down towards him, its fingers wailing, about to come crashing down, trying to grab him. And that is where part 2 of What If Deku Had a Half Air, Half Water Quirk comes to an end. I hope you all did enjoy it, and if you did, please consider subscribing, as it really does help this channel out, and you can even be notified when the other parts of this series do end up coming out. I thank you all for watching once again, and goodbye.